Oseo.
Oseo.
That's the Cherokee greeting, and wave the great feather for the good of it. That's a summon for the spirits. They see me doing that every time there. Yohemmelo,
Yohemmelo, Yohemmelo, Gadewio Hemmelo, Gadewio Hemmelo, Yohemmelo, Yohemmelo, Hemmelo, Gadewio Hemmelo, Gadewio Hemmelo.
That's a Coyote song to start off with. So the theme, trends, so forth, I've been going on for a few weeks. This is a good time of year, the December and to January, February. A lot happens on the native side. So I'm continuing with that, and in particular, the people who live east of here in the Anza-Borrego Desert for the past 8,000 years. Americans call it Coyote. It's a nice sounding name. It seems to have stemmed from the Chimawebes referring to them as different people. And their own name is the Muruwitam. They are the first people. I'm going to introduce this subject here. What I'm saying here is this book by Peg Street, The Goddess Sanctuaries, or Sanctuaries of the Goddess, which is my main theme that I'm going to show you here. So this is a book where she has collected in many different places, sites that can be recognized as these sanctuaries, temples, and the like. And let me read you something which is relevant to my whole subject here, that's in her introduction to that book. By Peg Street, Sanctuaries of the Goddess. Historically and spiritually, we are distanced from the goddesses by the succeeding patriarchal societies and their religions, which began with the incursions of the pre-Indo-Europeans about 6000 BC, who brought with them a religion of sky gods and an entirely different religious symbolism and ethos. What resulted from this initial clash was a hybrid of values, with those of the patriarchy in dominance. The succeeding millennia furnished our culture with layers and layers of patriarchal myth and iconography, which now need to be stripped away so that we can reclaim our original ancestry of the past. That is an excellent introduction to my whole subject here. And the main thing that I'm going to, this is my centerpiece here, to go up here to this painting up here. This painting that I have named The Portal. I'll tell you how that it came about, because I like the way it came about. We had a blue four-wheel drive Toyota pickup truck. So, I mean, it's a little bit higher off the ground. And Claudia was seeking juniper seeds or berries to make necklaces from that. So we drove out there, out east, East County, whatever they call it, it goes way up the hill there. And we're driving out Highway 8 until you turn off there by the Acorn Casino. And driving east, it goes through the hamlet of Yakumba. And then, I don't know, a few miles, up past that, we went about as far as the Valley of the Moon and turned around, and we're coming back down the same road. It's just a little two-lane road, and so we're heading west, and Claudia spots a bush, a big bush of the juniper berries. So she's driving, and she pulls over to the side, and I open the door and I step down. You have to step down from that truck, you know. And really, as soon as I touch my foot on the ground, I felt a current come up through my leg like that. And so you went with it. There was a deep ditch alongside the road. I went down through the ditch, and I just kept following this sense. I'd never been there before. And it's a very, very, very rocky place, and had no idea where this sense was leading me or dragging me. And I went quite a ways. I had to climb over some rocks and so forth until I came to as kind of a clearing, and right away there she was. You know, just like this. And I mean, it becomes immediately evident, even though there was an impact to suddenly realize this, but at the same time I'm the picture is lighting up to me to what I'm seeing here. And this stone here that I've painted is very tall. You could see it from a distance. You later on find out what this is that I painted. I came home, you know, that evening, and I painted my experience impression of that as you see it right away. You know, this great Yoni stone. Now the word Yoni is been sort of adopted or something from India, and the archaeologists or the anthropologists have incorporated it into their vocabulary for these vulva-looking stones like that what this is, and so it's referred that way. In the Korea language, this would be kawi chu'u yakahine, or it means, you know, the stone vulva that is standing, or better, easier to say, you know, a standing stone vulva, or standing stone vulva, like that. Or maybe we'll gloss it, you know, as the standing stone Yoni. So I don't know how tall you could say it is, but the features you have in it that I've noted, the rock there is, you know, this kind of white crystalline, and these represent, you know, the milling sites, or morteros we call them, around it. And this other rock that's up behind us has this impression to me that Coyote is the guardian of this stone. And how it's situated is most interesting. It looks like that there was a waterway. I mean, there is no water there now, but it looks like it. And this is right on the edge of what is a sheer drop-off. In other words, if there was water, you'd be looking at a waterfall. And this is rising up right off the crest of that. And I kind of figured that figure over there as the spirit that brought me to this whole thing. Now, I'm going to just momentarily here introduce another book. So this is titled The Ceremonial Fertility Sites, and what she has done, especially in this area out here that is east of Yakumba, you know, go very east, then the road drops down, especially steep, that goes down there to Acatillo, and the valley that once had a water, it was the Imperial Sea. And so she has documented these sites, calling them Yoni fertility sites. And this was published like in the early 80s. Don't really remember how long ago it was that I discovered this, maybe about then. So they have been recorded, many of them here. And so this is San Diego Museum papers here for that. And there are no people living there now, but there was people up there too, I think at least about 100 years ago. Not far from there to the south is Campo, and there's a reservation there. I don't know much about it or exactly who it is that is there. It could be some of these people that have come from here. Other sites that are around there, I'm going to show you this one right here, if you can get a close-up. This is a photo of, again, a Yoni stone, rather characteristic of the several that she has recorded. And this one is actually located east of my site here to a place they call Desert Tower that's been there maybe for 100 years. And it's right on the cusp. It's a place that's called Inkopa, actually. And it's curious because it has a native name. I haven't heard anybody know that they know what it is, but with the Coyote, I made out the name. It would mean where two lizards got sunburned. So that sounds typical native name there. But they have an area there that you pay a couple dollars and you go into this area where all the rocks have different shapes, and some of them have been painted to accentuate them. And in there is this stone right here. And that gives you an exact idea of many of the stones that have been documented throughout the area. And you go over here to the side here that I made this one. Mriyakan Buddhist, who wrote a few books on the ancient gods and goddesses of Eastern Europe, in one of the books, she writes about this as the eye or eyes being also a symbol of the Yoni, the vulva there, including this one that looks like an eye. Now this one is a little bit south from Yakumba in an area called Lions Valley, and it has several of these kind of stones. And this one I painted especially to illustrate the eye of the Yoni. How somebody made it, I don't know. It certainly looks quite old. It's very three-dimensional. This piece here really comes out considerably. How anybody carved this, and then there, the cavity is fairly deep. All this would have had to have been carved out, unless perchance nature had made it or made a start on it, and then the eyelashes over it here. This would be called, in this culture, the eye of love. So I very much agree with that here. And other things that belong, to this region here, you come down here to this clay oya here. This is from Yakumba, like that. There was a man there, he had that store where the weeping buffalo is, and he lived right on the border around there, and he found that in the rocks there, so I bought it from him. So it's very interesting, because I'd never seen another one like it, but I know what it's about. You can see two holes there. There's two holes on the other side, and the top has been made to be straight. So it was furnished with a cover, no doubt, a pottery cover, just like, and it was somehow tied down, so it remained, tight, whatever was in the container. The other from there is this very little pot with the rock on top fitting it, is also from Yakumba. And while I'm there, you go over here, I introduced last time, this is what the place for Yakumba was really been named for in Korea, Nishapa. Nishapa meaning the place of the wild gourd. The wild gourds are coyote melons. This is what coyote melon looks like, and maybe coyotes ate them here. And another piece down here, actually I bought this from a man who found it out there in Anza. It's a kind of a grinding stone in the shape of a turtle. And on the other side, here is an old Koya spoon, ceramic spoon, that would appear to be the shape that was used for horn. They cut horn in such a way as to make a spoon in that shape, and this one is an old pottery spoon here. Again, all of this is still within the one that I started a few weeks ago with the Kauya creator being, that's Mukat, and the lizard that lives in his cane or his walking stick, that's Moyak, and there's a drop of Mukat's blood on the rocks that you find around there, and his twin brother, who is the earth maker over here, this figure is Temokoyat, and I sang the song about how he went into the earth and brought some of the creatures, with him who live in the earth here. And then here, this piece here is I really think so. It's the earliest, or something like that, emblem, is what I would call it, of the Great Mother, the Great Goddess, or the Great Feminine, anything to that effect, And the Spanish word is most adapt to it, la parecía, meaning the loop. And in the Korea, that kind of goes with it as sia would mean the nest, a bird's nest. And that fits in with this culture that you're seeing my examples of. This culture is a nest, and in the nest, of course, there is an egg, huevo. And in that whole thing that we're coming to cosmic war here is where, of course, the bird hatches its impolo. Impolo was meaning the woman who has gone through her initiation, and culturally that she is hatched from the egg, as now the queen, meaning she flies free. So that's the meaning of the culture. Now we have all of this evidence here, but there is nobody there to tell us what exactly, culturally speaking, we can have these names that are in the language, but we don't know what the culture has been for all of this that's in that region, quite extensive, we call East County here. But you go to India. In India has retained everything. I think everything that's ever been. It's really amazing. Going back to the earliest of the earliest, and so forth. And one way that I can, adapt, to this lack of cultural evidence here, this is from India, and this does pertain to what we're looking at here. So I'm just going to read it here as I've written it. Because her bliss isn't penetrated, she is a mountain. Because ignorant beings cannot fathom her, she's a forest. Because her womb is filled with nectar, she is a cave. Because her wisdom is deep, she is a riverbank. Because she knows the natural state beyond birth and death, she is primordial. Because she is the desire of great peace, her activity is natural. So there is, considerable culture still thriving there in India and in Tibet. There's the Hindu portion of the feminine called Tantric, and then there's the Buddhist, I think they're called the Dakinis. There's a whole Buddhist culture that is feminine and well documented. It has all these systems within it here. So all of that is a way to know this. And exactly while in with that subject, Claudia's going to read a poem from this. This is her book as we conceive her. And she has some photos here. I think one is the one that the Desert Tower, and another one. Can you kind of see them? Okay? And let me just read these little pieces that she has with these photographs. Chthonic mother. This gaping, bright-eyed vulva, this holy Yoni, has been here hidden by her own nature, waiting for water, that dry lake bed eel, to slip through her painted lips, turning this ancestral shadow into a mythic fact. So that's one good thing that does describe it. Now as to the word Yoni, I can't find out exactly where that came from. It's not recorded in the Sanskrit dictionary. The Buddhists kind of have different ways of referring to that, like Padma, meaning lotus, or Vaga, meaning something especially divine or great. And another one that does come out of this culture in India of her is, actually, you can go all the way over there, you're going to see there's a bird, that's a crow, and that's Kakari. Kakari or Kakasa, meaning crow face. And who is crow face? In that culture, she is a deity. She is a deity that is guarding her yoni. And in the system, the Chakra Savara mandala is what we call it, is imposed on her yoni, like that, and through that, the guardian is here of crow face is there. So that's another term, for the yoni, in this. So of course other languages, do have their own words for this, and in the Koya it's chu'u, meaning that her vulva here. And another site that's over there in this region, coming into the town, which is a hamlet, of Yakumba, from San Diego, you're going to come in past the casino and down a hill and into it. I think it's Kitchen Creek Road. And as you're approaching just the perimeter of the hamlet, there is a house off the way there. This site that I'm pointing to way over there. Now how this came about, similarly to the first one I told you, Claudia and I stayed at a motel. This is quite a few years ago now. We stayed at a motel there. She was putting together this book that I just read to you from, or another book. And so with her camera, one day or one morning when you went out, just walking through the bush, like that. It's very rocky and a lot of things growing there like that. And I just came to a region where I just felt in a clearing of all these rocks that was very, very large, sort of circular on a gradual incline, as I would call it. And I could just really feel something there. The first thing that I found was kind of like, I would call it the northeast corner. I saw a coyote trail. Now the coyote trail, it must have been going on, who knows, for millennia. I could see it, how it came down through the rocks, and it came down into this clearing right away, and that there was a circle where you could see this is where the coyotes have been coming to sing and dance. We all come together and we all sing and dance. Yo, 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 ne, yo, yo, ne, yo. So they go like that. Like that. And the sense that that's informing me here, eventually there's some kind of a dry brush, I don't know what it was, that was growing pretty tall. And I really following my sense because I had to kind of break through this brush. So almost across from this coyote circle, there was something else. This is all on a gradual incline. There is a huge white rock. Now this huge white rock is that there's a small mound, that kind of rising up, and on this mound is this huge white rock. And the shape of it, it is a white crystalline rock, unlike anything else around there. And my immediate impression is that it reminded me of one of those ancient trilobites, like that. And that's what I have illustrated here. You know, the only way that I could illustrate this, I've taken this birdseed bag and I've stuffed it with something to make a volume and to paint and draw on it an impression to give you an idea who this is, you know. Now, the ancient people know everything has come in from the foam of the sea, you know, so that's what we're looking at. This is emerged from the foam of the sea. The foam of the sea, the foam of the sea, the pure white foam of the sea. Who knows better now how to dance? Who knows better now how to sing than I who have tasted the foam of the sea, the pure white foam of the sea. So this is telling me, you know, who this is. This is, I call it, you know, Nawili Kawish, or the Nawili stone. Nawili is the Koya name now for a very young woman that basically means white body. So a very young woman would be called a Nawili. And to realize, you know, all that this is imparting to the earth, how are we going to in any way imagine or conceive of this huge being that we are on by way of the body louse. So when you look up into the night sky of stars, the stars are her lice on her body. So that's how that this is all come about. And down below it, you see there's a coyote. Since I felt that coyote kind of pointed the way for me to discover Nawili Kawish here. And he's drinking out of this pottery bowl. This pottery bowl was made by Tony Suarez. He is a traditional Korea potter. He inherited from his father. Different than in the old days. I think women did most of the pottery. But this is his bowl. I've had it for, I don't know, 20 or 30 years. And it's a good example of a piece of Korea pottery here that's even contemporary here. And you go down here and look at this that I have. You'll see a little Oya and a rabbit. I had been saying earlier how much evidence there is in the culture, I'm just calling it Korea, that is from North Africa and Egypt. And I'll recall that in a minute. But the red painting on it is, you know, been glazed, you know, it's not superficial. And it is exactly in the Egyptian record of the hieroglyphs, as we call them, you know, a flower. It represents that hieroglyph flower called Un. And next to it is the rabbit, which in Egypt is also Un. And this has a context for what it is saying here. Here in this earth, we live and exist. So Un and Un means that exist and live. Here we live. Here. And over here I was introducing this last week, and I'm trying to kind of give you the idea of the feminine culture in these societies that were, we call them matriarchal. The female person, you know, is most special, and she goes through various initiations, you know, from when she's, you know, initiated into, you know, womanhood. And some of the societies still have these intact, you know, the Navajos and the Apaches, you know, and the Pueblo people. They all have initiations for the female person to go through with this. What I'm pertaining to here with this illustration here, which means a grassy, rock-strewn mound, which is located on the plain east of Mesa Grande, at the mountain Palomar, and on the way to Warner Springs, or anciently Kupa, or secretly Rabbit's house. Now, in Egypt, the sort of mythical divine man, the Greeks have called Osiris. In Egyptian, he's called Asur. Asur. He's strong. He's powerful, like that, and he's very benevolent. Also, one might say, that the later figure that the Christians have dubbed, Jesus or something like that, have somehow been influenced, if not derived, from Asur, Osiris. And what happened was that he was sort of attacked by the east wind. The east wind comes out of the desert, and this east wind, what do you say, disfigured him, dismembered him into pieces. And these pieces were distributed all over the country of Egypt, and these became temples or shrines. And over here, with the Korea, also, his head is buried here at this, Rabbit's Mound, or Tikval Pette, the place where it happened. And there, as the ancient song reveals, as it did in Egypt, his son, the hawk, or Horus in Greek, Cassili, derives out of his head, and raises up. And with that, he also had lifted up Coyote, and Coyote saw Warner Springs, Kupa, it's a place of hot springs. So that was all there. So the idea is that these wind, dismembered him and scattered him throughout the land, and his head, in this case, is buried there by Kupa. Now, we can go over here to this one. This is my drawing. I'm kind of following one thing to another here. This is my drawing out there. So I'm drawing of Claudia, and in this I would say she is a mountains woman. That's who I have figured here of her. Now that's, very similar to here. If you see this figure here, this is a very ancient carving from Tamil Nadu, southern India, of the chief ancient deity, goddess we'll call her, known as Parvati. Parvati. She wears, a grass dress, and her hair is up in a top knot of a yogi. Now, similarly, but differently than the story of Osiris and his decimated into pieces, also Vishnu somehow also does this. He kind of, we can say, divides her up into pieces, into shares, and has distributed these shares throughout the country we're now looking at in India, so that these parts become shrines like her. Now just a little jump over here, back over here. East of here, on the way to Tecate, there is a place called Madre Grande. And Tim, our violinist here, Tim, and his partner David, they live there. It was a kind of a community of organic gardening, is what it seemed like. I've been there a few times, and what's there is a huge boulder that is very obvious has a Yoni in it. And I'm saying that because that's what we have here. Even as Osiris's parts, including his phallus, as we would politely call it, has a place that's, Het Benu. It means, house of the obelisk. So similarly here with the goddess, she also has a place of her Yoni, if we can pull it that way, that I could imagine, because of the description of it, that it would be akin to the one that's seen at the place of Madre Grande. Also, Madre Grande, I learned from the native sense, is a place of a very special environment there, and that would certainly accord this organic gardening people that were there. But further, what this is also saying, in the culture of woman, there's going to be her, coming into adulthood or womanhood like that. But later on in life, she's going to also come to other initiations. There's a Buddhist temple from South Asia very near to us. I've been over there. And women the Buddhist women who have finished, their child rearing and all of that, then retire to the temple. So now they've entered into another phase of their life. So in this feminine culture, we have something similar. So what we'll call it the story there of Parvati, she's Mountain's daughter, and the woman is going to go into another phase of her life where her parts are also, set loose. Set loose like analysis that way. And in this, that she becomes the widow. The widow is the outcome of the separation that's going on in her, whatever you can say, her spirit or her psyche or her soul. So the story of Parvati in this case, is a model. It's a model for women in this culture in particular. So when I mentioned that another part of her culture, go over here to the center here, this stone, and I only know the Lakota name, Tunkun Ishnati, meaning that this is the puberty spirit stone for a young woman here. Throughout the Southwest, I don't know, maybe it's everybody here, had some form of this for the young woman. The way I understand it is a cavity is dug in the ground, in the earth. I think sometimes a wool matting is put down, and the young woman, nude, lays down in this matting or in this cavity, and this crescent stone, here we're calling it the puberty spirit stone, is placed on her lower abdomen here. And it is ostensibly to help her in childbirth. So that's very significant. I found that in a very special place. And in some of these places, I think that there is, strewn a lot of little pebbles. And I think that these pebbles were part of this ritual or ceremony we're talking about, where the woman would name different things of herself or something and put together in a little heap like that. So it all seems to go with it. And on each side of it I have little sprigs of sage that I just harvested yesterday up at Laguna. So we can have all that there. And I think that I've covered everything in this way to give you some view of a culture that we can derive from in bringing about a new or a new old consciousness of the feminine. Is really what I'm interested in here. And with Claudia, now she's going to come up and she's going to read from her book, her poem that we feel goes with this.
Feeding the spirits. We have found where you sat, next to your deep stone bowl, where, with other women, you crushed acorns between hand-chiseled mortars and pestles, all pounding to the echo across canyon walls. We sit here, grandmother, singing water chants with the creek, as it engraves its way downstream against the rock tones that once mimicked your own pounding. Spearmint is here, fanned by pine needles high above. We chew it, feel certain that you knew its power to soothe a bitter stomach. Lavender is here, pressed between our fingers, still oozing its calming oil for any troubled spirit. Quietly we listen. Hear the water call your name. The creek remembers how it taught you to bend basket grasses in curves. Turn burbles into giggles. Remember, the sounds into which we live are the sounds you made here, in a bowl so deep it's still filled to the brim with star seeds, herbs, and song. Thank you.
Take a bow. Thank you.